2020. The first item on our agenda is the consent agenda. We don't have any warrants today. We're going to have them next time, but we have 2 sets of minutes. Typically, when the minutes are amended, just as a side note, we make the suggestions for amendments and then we approve them as amended. But because the minutes from the 5th included some details around some of the decisions, we wanted to bring them back as amended for everyone's review. Also included were the August 18 minutes. Did anyone get a chance to review the minutes from August 5th as amended and August 18? If so, is there a motion to approve?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Audrey. I want to make sure that since there were some suggested edits to the minutes from August 5th, that those are now covered as indicated. They're good. Okay, any other questions or suggestions on either one of those sets of minutes? Okay, hearing none. All in favor to approve the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? All right, approved unanimously. Thank you. We're going to move to our visitors' comments. Give me 1 second, Robin. Alex, am I a host?
Yes, you are. Major co-host.
Thank you. Appreciate it. We're going to start with Robin, but our visitors, if you have any comments that you would like to share with us, please use the raise hand feature of Zoom, and then we'll get back to you shortly. Robin, we'll start with you. Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Robin Lamorter. I'm not only a resident, I have been the president of the GRANBY Educators Association for the past 3 years. Tonight is my last official, school committee meeting as the president of the union. Cheryl Dennett officially becomes the president of the GRANBY Educators Association tomorrow. I would like to thank this school committee and past school committees for the past 3 years for letting me be a part and listening to me when I asked for you to pass resolutions, listen to suggestions. Cheryl always made sure she referred to me, asked me questions as needed, and thank the good Lord that I was able to give those answers. But I just wanted to say that we have a good school system, and you all work together for the good of the children, and that is what it's all about, and the teachers. You have a phenomenal staff here in GRANBY, and I appreciate them, and I hope that you do also, and just thank you for letting me be part of this.
Robin, thank you so much for that. Thank you for being part of our meetings. Thank you being the voice of the educators in GRANBY. We really appreciated having you at every meeting, and we appreciated your comments, contributions, suggestions. Wish you the best. But I know that this is not going to be the last time you're going to be at our meetings, and I know you will have a lot to say as a visitor anyway. So thank you for everything that you've done and you do. Really appreciate it.
We're gonna miss having you be the president and speaking up for them. I always appreciate your input, Robin.
Thank you.
And with that, we also welcome Cheryl. I guess she's not with us this evening, but we welcome her as the incoming president of the GEA, and we'll look forward to many similar conversations with her as well.
Yes.
Great. Anyone else wanted to share any comments before we move to our agenda? Okay, I don't see any hands, so I will move to the agenda. We don't have any new business. Actually, as many of you know, we added this meeting after our meeting last week. One of the reasons for that is that we are in the midst of a lot of work, a lot of changes, and as change occurs, when we meet every other week, it is partially responsible for the very lengthy meetings that we had the last 2-3 sessions. So we wanted to, one, mitigate those very lengthy meetings, and second, we have some items that we really thought would be best discussed sooner than later, because our next meeting was scheduled for September 8th, and the school committee did not want to wait that long to get into a discussion of the pending items. So with that intro, I'm going to go into continuing business. That primarily consists of the update to our reopening plan. The first one is changes since we last reviewed the plan. A good part of that was last week, but also we had discussed this new safety committee that already started meeting this week. And for that, I will first turn it to Carol to share with us the latest and greatest.
So the Health and Safety Committee has met twice. We met, it is only Tuesday, so we met yesterday and we met today. You're right, this was a long day. And we had several things on our agenda that we want to accomplish. But the first and foremost one was a metric to move between models based on the COVID-19 data. We had several questions that we focused on. And the first day we had some real thoughtful contributions from the members. We have members from the community. We have parents, we have teachers, we have representation from the union, our nurse leader, myself, the school physician, and the Board of Health. Our first meeting, the Board of Health wasn't there, but he did come today and speak to supporting us in determining a metric. He's not, the way he described it to me was he wants to provide us information, not data. And what he meant by that is that, right now from the state, we're getting, red, yellow, green, or white, based on cases. But his feeling is you need to know the information about the cases. He said, in GRANBY, a single family, 4 people, all in one home, quarantined, got it together, stayed home together, and he would have counted that as one incident rather than counting it as 4, where it was 4 different people out in the community. So he is working with the Board of Health to come up with a metric that we can use alongside the state or the governor's metric to kind of downsize it to our size district. He explained that the commissioner's data is based on 100,000. We only have 6,800 residents. So it makes it, we're not getting a true picture. So unfortunately tonight, they were supposed to have a meeting tonight and be talking about this. And I just found out that they canceled their meeting and rescheduled it for Thursday. But we're going to work collaboratively. They did ask for a little extra time in coming up with the metric. And so, because I explained to him that, based on our white designation, we would be starting school soon. And, I didn't feel comfortable going from red to white. He suggests pushing it off for a week so that they would have a good solid month to do their research and come out with a good extra piece, extra metrics for us to look at. So as it looks right now, our start date for our first phase would be September 28th. I think originally it was on the calendar for September 21, but that's all based on us continuing to reduce cases. So, Stephanie, did you want to add anything to that? You were there as well.
First, I just want to thank everyone who is a part of the safety committee meeting, and Carol for sticking out meetings all day long, every day lately. It's been, it's a big effort on everyone's part for sure. I think what Carol summed it up wonderfully. Unfortunately, right now, we don't have really many answers. I think we're waiting on Board of Health to come up with their metrics. Yeah. And in the meantime, right, Carol, that's kind of, there's a few things that we now know that we can maybe make tweaks to our plan to align with Board of Health, specifically regarding the cafeteria. But other than that, I think my big takeaway was what Carol just said, with possibly putting off until September 28th, that first phase.
I want to add that I had a few conversations and email exchanges with two members of our Board of Health, Dick Bombardier and Herb Abelson. And I really appreciate the tone of the conversations that we had. They are really looking to provide guidance and help the schools find the best way forward. And with that sense of partnership, I learned from some of the things that they shared with me. They were open to the things that I was sharing with them. So that dialogue can only be helpful and healthy for a community like ours. And I really appreciate that we are involved in those conversations. And I want to thank the safety committee as well. I know that we had multiple committees in the recent past, and I know that it is time consuming, but we also recognize, all of us, that this is an important time, and the work of these committees is critical for our success as a school district. So much appreciate all the work that you're doing. Thank you very much. Is there anything else from the safety committee or any changes to the plan since we discussed last time?
The other thing, Emery, that the safety committee, we had, so the next item on our agenda for the safety committee was about masks. I did let them know that the school committee had voted on the 18th to require masks for all students and staff. Dick shared with us that he wants to make sure that we're, that we're using a good mask. He said he was providing us some flavors of what was a good mask. So he had read an article that kind of outlined the effectiveness on a scale. So he's going to share that with Nancy Jenks, Dr. Tom, our school physician, and myself, so that the three of us can kind of zero in on what, because he mentioned that a bandana is not a good mask, but he also knows you know, an N95 is impossible, you know, like they're only available for hospitals. So he's, you know, he's looking for us to have something that is going to be, you know, good for reducing the spread. So we're going to be working on that. And Stephanie did bring up about the cafeteria. And, you know, by the time I was in that meeting, I was probably toast. So I couldn't really remember, you know, like he was worried about the number of kids in the cafeteria. So when we're hybrid, we are only going to have half the number of students in a class. So if class sizes are 20, the most we'll have in a grade level would be 30 kids. So putting 30 kids in a cafeteria that typically has 120, we're going to be able to spread them out far apart. And so I think what we'll do is you know, a practice run, you know, we'll take all us admin that are in the building and head over there and take a picture of us all spread out in the cafeteria, you know, to show, because he was worried about kids sitting across from each other or near each other and being able to dip behind, you know, the shields, like we talked about putting dividers. But I think we can, kids are going to be more than 6 feet apart if we have only 30 kids in the cafeteria at a time. So I need to get that information to him.
We also discussed with him also, he was talking about a HEROES Act that he had spoken with Chris Martin about, purchasing masks for the district and what that would look like. And one of the concerns that was brought up was also accessibility, depending on what types of masks that they're looking for us to purchase. If they, you know, depending on what they require for the district. So that is another thing that they're supposed to be providing information that will help, as Carol said before, about the specifics of what they're looking for in terms of masks and whether the district's providing that, parents are providing that, what that would look like. So that was brought up today as well too, just so that you guys know that that was a topic.
I'm confused on the whole topic of masks. I appreciate what they're saying, and it's not anything against anything, but we have purchased masks. And what I have asked a couple of times now, are the masks that we have already purchased going to be acceptable? Because we've already laid out that cash. Like, we've purchased them, we bought them, they're here.
I was on the same wavelength as you, Jen, too, because I mean, it was hard to find even like little tiny masks for my younger kids, you know, so that, you know, whatever mask he might say is what we need, but to find them small enough for the younger kids' faces is going to be a challenge. So.
No, and that's, we agree, you know, like we, you know, that's why I've been trying to nail them down as in, and Dr. Tom has as well, trying to say what, you know, what is an acceptable mask? Because if you go, and Nancy can probably speak better to it, you know, based on the CDC guidance, you know, it's layers of cloth, you know, so that's why I'm hoping we can get that and we can see, I mean, I can't see us being so far off.
And it's also a little, I'll say frustrating, because when you go out to purchase masks now, face coverings and things like that, bandanas are out there because they're an acceptable choice in the rest of the world. I understand that we need to be stringent, we need to keep students safe, but when the state is out there pushing these things as acceptable face coverings, then it's frustrating that we're now putting more of a burden on our families to have more stringent masks. You can go to a restaurant and wear a bandana. You can go to a mall and wear a bandana. You can go out in public wearing a bandana or some of these other things. But to go to our school, we're really being, I get we're being very overprotective, but I'm worried is that we're going to back ourselves into a corner where the masks that we're choosing are going to be not available, and then we're going to have, you know, more and more people going remote. And the whole point from the state on down is to try to get people back to school, not, you know, like we want to be able to make it so it's not prohibitive, really, you know. And I'm just starting to get worried that maybe all of the requirements are becoming prohibitive.
I think in CDC recommendations, it was clear that bandanas were not doing the same thing as masks. Because bandanas basically from different directions you can get the air, and this being an airborne disease, I think there was guidance on that before.
Well, I just read a report, and I'm probably jackling because maybe I don't understand it, but bandanas were likened to the face shields because there's a lot of extra open space, and the point is to try to eliminate. But I mean, I'm not a doctor. I'm just getting frustrated with it. Feels like every time we turn around, there's, oh, no one can hear me. Never mind.
No,
My connection keeps going out, so just move on.
I totally understand, you know, where you're coming from. I mean, you know, our focus is to get kids back to school, to get our buildings open, and you know, but we need to do it safely, and the Board of Health has to approve our plan. And, you know, so, you know, we're working collaboratively, you know, we've been, you know, we're at the same table, you know, Emery's talking, you know, with the Board of Health. I've been talking with the Board of Health. They came to our meeting today, you know, and, you know, we'll find that common ground. And hopefully we'll get that article sooner than later. And then Nancy and Dr. Tom and myself can, you know, narrow it down.
Anything else that you wanted to add, not only from the safety committee, but any change that we should be or the public should be aware with respect to the plans?
No, at this point, we're planning, once we have a start date, you know, that's when we will start moving, you know, with the phases.
Okay. Any questions on the safety committee, the first item? All right. So as we move to the second one, which is the timeline for phase in, the main reason why this one is here because our motion a few weeks ago when we approved the reopening plan, we did not have the phase-in timeline in the plan at that point in time, and our motion read that the school committee would receive it, review it, and then and vote for it. But all that said, can you, Carol, please put the timeline that's been in our reopening plan for a little while now, can you please put them in context based on what you just shared, the safety committee conversations, and you know, if there's a push to the 28th, how that timeline still applies or doesn't apply? Can you please help us understand that?
Sure. All right, let me just get those. I just want to make sure I open the right one. So it's not really a timeline as much as phases. So if, you know, at looking at, when we were talking about East Meadow, we originally started putting, you know, we put in dates, you know, and we were trying to say, okay, 3 weeks, and we put in a date, and then 3 weeks and put in a date. And what we realized is that it was really hard to put dates in until we knew when we started, especially since when we submitted the plan, the commissioner had deemed us full remote because we had turned red. And his conversation with me was, you know, once you are back to, you know, green, we'll start talking about you, you know, going back in. Well, we went from green to red, you know, so, but I still didn't feel comfortable. So the way it works is if you look at it, and I don't know if you have it in your folder.
Yes.
It started with September 15th. All students begin remote learning, okay? And that's where we started. September 21 was we talked about students of greatest need for additional support would have been starting school with us. But because we were full remote, they too were remote. So right off the bat, it changed our plan. So if you look at the September 21, it is 1 week after first day of in-person instruction. So that was the day that we would then start our high needs student. Okay, and then
Is there a way for us to share our screen just so people here like see this while we're talking about it? Sorry, just as a visual person myself, I think it's nice that if we throw it up like here where we were saying this date and now it's potentially here.
Right.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Go ahead, Carol.
Okay, so
I have a quick question too, though. So we are white at this point.
yes.
So has the commissioner not been told that we're white, or we have decided to not go back? Because we were red for a hot second.
We're waiting for the Board of Health, right?
Yes, we're waiting. So we were red, and we went from a Monday where we were full remote to a Tuesday that said you can bring in every child. But we still had we had 4 cases that last week. So my feeling was I couldn't understand how you could go from red, meaning we are at high risk and school can't open, to white that says you can bring every student back. And the Board of Health felt the same way. So the Board of Health had reached out to Emory and told Emory, you know, you're going to move, right, you know, there's the potential of moving from red to white because of the way this metric is. And so it doesn't feel right for us to be, you know, to go from red to white, from no kids in school to kids in school without, and still have cases. So we
I think we're always going to have cases, though. It's not going to go away. You know, I'm just trying to, and this goes back to what Emory was talking about last time, but if we're going to be using the metric that's provided by the state, then we should be using the metrics that's provided by the state. And that's kind of what we had started to talk about last time. I mean, because if we wait until we have no cases, no one in GRANBY is going to do anything ever.
So what we're saying is that particular metric is not well suited for a small district. So we have to work with the Board of Health. The Board of Health has to approve our plan. The Board of Health basically has to direct us. And what they're saying is they feel that they can come up with a metric that will provide us information that will help us, you know, understand whether or not we're at risk or not for opening. And when I spoke with him today, I said we were scheduled to start the 21st with our first high needs kids starting on the 21st. And he asked that we give them a little bit more time to secure their metric. So we pushed it to the following Monday, making it the 20th.
I got the 28th. Yeah,
So I don't think there is really a lot of disagreement between what you said and what the Board of Health, in essence, is saying. We all came to the realization that the color code that the state put out there is very volatile. For a small town like GRANBY, the change from red to white and back to red can happen only by virtue of a few cases. So understanding that, what they are trying to do is that instead of just having that one and move back and forth potentially just because of a few cases, they are trying to establish a couple of metrics, potentially that color-coded one being one, but also another one, possibly trending, possibly, positivity rate, so that going forward, we don't find ourselves really going back and forth. And my understanding is that the main reason why we are talking about September 28th as opposed to 21st is because they wanted to have enough time to be able to put that robust set of couple of metrics and share with the school district.
Correct.
And just to reiterate, I think it's also important that everyone knows that the Board of Health is working, which is why they want that extra week to come up with these metrics. And ultimately, the Board of Health is who does have say in when our building opens and closes. So we have to work, in a line with what their metrics are going to be, that we're just waiting to hear from.
I understand. I just was questioning because we spent a lot of time talking about it at our last meeting. And so I'm just trying to keep up. That's all.
Sorry, Jen, that wasn't for you specifically. That was just for everyone. It's a really confusing thing. I feel like this entire color system, to be honest, from the state was very confusing because they put this out there without much guidance for us on how to use it or how to transition. And now it's kind of being left up to individual towns and districts to figure out what they're comfortable with. And it's just creating, unfortunately, some major stress within everyone else on figuring out what the safest and most comfortable thing to do is. So that wasn't for you, that was just for everyone listening.
So with us using the 28th as our start, we would then move into the 28th being the date that we bring the high needs students in. And then 1 week after that, because that's how it's written, Audrey, you were a part of that. So 1 week after the first phase, we would then start the next. So
yes, because this part right here was a screening.
Yes. Yep. So we would start on the 28th and then move to, let me just grab a calendar. We would start the screenings, the grade 1 and grade 2 screenings would start the following, I'm trying to think, would the screenings start the same or are we waiting a week?
It would be October 5th. But the problem is, and again, as much as we're very much trying to outline this just for clarification, if we go red again or anything else, this can still change. So making that very clear.
Yes.
Can someone tell me what a grade 1 and grade 2 screening is?
So kindergarten screening is mandated by the state. You have to do it within 30 days of the start of their schooling. And it has all different things in it, gross motor, fine motor.
I'm talking about the grade 1 and grade 2 screening. I know what the
I think their intention, the teacher's intention there is that these kiddos have, sorry for the back noise, coming back from remote learning, they haven't met any of their new teachers yet, and you really need to build relationships with these young kids before you can really get them to buy in. So they're hoping to have that opportunity to meet kids, kind of know where they are. You know, in this stage, you're learning to read, not reading to learn. So they really know where they need to know where they are so that they can instruct them at their level and make them be the most successful.
That's it exactly. The first and second grade originally it was just the first grade teachers who wanted to get a feel for where these children were at. And because, I mean, they did remote learning, but what did they lose over the summer, or what did they get from remote learning? And it's no criticism for any teacher. And then the second grade teachers also chimed in and said that they would like to have the same kind of information.
Right. So ideally, you would take away the dates and it will just flow from the first date. So after, you know, as we move, you know, there's 3 weeks between, you know, phase 2 after phase 1, and then there's 3 weeks from phase 3, you know, as it goes down. If you want to scroll it up a little bit.
So Carol, would it be fair to say that the anchor date, which is the start date, will be the important one,
Yes.
and that may change, but the plans or the timelines are set up in such a way that it specifies how many weeks after that date
Yes.
we would move to the following phase in.
Yes.
So, okay.
Yep. You know, and as Audrey said, as long as we don't have an uptick that requires us to close, we would keep moving along every 3 weeks.
What happens if we have an uptick and we're in phase 3? Do we go back to phase 1, or do we continue from phase 3 when we're cleared?
So that's something that the that's part of the safety committee is going to look at, you know, because you know, I feel going back to the beginning, you know, some kids will never get into school, but I do want to make sure that we do it slowly. So we may, if we're up to phase 3 is, you know, grade 1 cohort comes in. So we may want to do, you know, our high needs students and preschool, and then, you know, then next week bring back K and 1, you know. I don't think we want to, every time we go to red, go back. And they're also saying in the Department of Education guidance, as well as the Board of Health said, just a red designation does not mean that we need to shut, you know, down the school. You know, by them providing us daily information about, you know, information, not just numbers. You know, they may know, like you mentioned that a couple cases, you know, that put us over into the red were people that were living in assisted living, not in our community, but this was their address. You know, so it's that type of information, you know, that they would like to be able to say, you know, this isn't something that's going to impact the schools. You know, these people aren't even here, you know. So, but I do worry that when we jump to red, you know, we have to have a plan for, you know, getting the kids back in quicker. And I figure if we do it by grade level clusters rather than just single grade levels. But it will certainly be ironed out with the Board of Health and the Safety, you know, committee.
Carol, just to touch on that, I also believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that there was discussion about maybe like a 2-week period in between if we change colors versus going from 3 like back to phase 1. So that was just something else to keep in mind, that we felt maybe 2 weeks was a good amount of time, or 2 to 3 to move back, you know, forward rather than starting from the beginning, especially if we're in a further phase. Like you said, if we're in phase 5, for instance, you know, going back to phase 1 wouldn't probably be the most productive thing for everyone.
Yeah, no, they did, you know, and it's all because we went from, you know, 8 cases or 7 cases, which put us in red, and the following we had 4, and now we were white, you know, whereas, you know, rather than a gradual yellow to green, then to white, you know, we went from the highest restriction to the lowest in you know, one cycle. So I mean, the whole idea is to make sure that we're making good decisions with good information, and, you know, to keep our community safe.
Did you want me to scroll down further?
It's every 3 weeks, and then the high schools is, you know, a little bit different. You know, they do start with the high needs, and then they have an October 19th date, you know, which I think is about 3 weeks as well. And it's students that have been determined by the student support team that come in, and a percentage of their cohorts A and B. So theirs is a little bit different, but similar in far as, you know, having 3 weeks in between.
So what's the November 19th, day 45? Because it doesn't list anything else out. So the way I'm reading and interpreting this, which I'm sure is probably wrong, is that on day 45, we either reassess or we're starting to have more, really start to have more of those kids come in which case in November 19th, we have like potentially have 7 through 12th graders in, but in the East Meadow, we only have kindergartners in the building.
So the day 45 seemed to be a point, you know, a date and time that people were focused on. And I think a lot of it had to do with other districts were really focused on the first 45 days. So I think, you know, they're going to continue to assess and see how things are going. And, you know, at the high school, you know, it runs a little different. You know, it's the kids that need support. If you need to be in school, and, you know, you learn best by being in school, you know, but there are going to be a lot of kids that are going to choose, you know, just to do this remotely.
And probably somewhere around here, mid-October, we will, I mean, we are almost at the end of August. So in about a month and a half, maybe a little longer than that, we're going to be talking about what these dates mean at that point in time. As a school committee, as a community, as the committees that have been meeting. So we'll probably determine it at that time.
Right, because you'll have updates on data. You know, we've been in school for, you know, several weeks. You know, how has it been going? How are the kids, you know, acclimating? You know, have there been, you know, any more cases? So there's a lot to, you know, a lot more information we'll have once we get started.
So when it says up to 25%, up to 50%, up to 75%, that's because it says cohort AB, so that's the entire population. Like cohort A and B is
right, but we're not starting. We're starting with our high needs populations first. So that up to the in-person, you know, we said we were starting remote. The in-person won't start till the next week. So.
Well, just, I understand what you're saying, but the way this is written says, sorry for the background noise, is that with the highest need population, we're saying that is 25% of the population. And then for our second wave there, October 19th, we're saying that's 50% of the cohort A and B. And then November 16th is 75% of the cohort. So what I'm reading that to say is that we think we have 75% of the population of the school is people that are having trouble.
This is what's tricky for me too, Jen. I think it's 50% of the cohort. It's not of the entire population.
Well, it says cohort A and B, so it's talking about both. So that's the entire population.
Jen, I think Bill wants to clarify that. Bill, if you want to join it, I don't know. Alex, can you help with that? I can see the hands.
Give me 1 second.
It wouldn't be Bill, it would be Stephen.
But I see his hand raised, so I want to acknowledge that.
Okay.
Is Stephen with us too?
I just add him as a panelist. Give it.
Okay.
Give it a few
Thank
seconds.
you.
You're welcome.
Oh, great. If Steven's here, he can speak to it. I just wasn't sure if he was here because I think ours both read the same way. When we talk up to 75% of, it's not that we're saying that that group is 75% of or that group is 50% of. We're only going to bring in students up to 50% of that cohort. That's the limit of the number of students we would be bringing in. So that's what we capped it at. And I see Stephanie nodding because she was part of that conversation, and she probably remembers now that we said we wanted to come up with a number, right? And I think the high school was the same way. You wanted to come up with a number so we could limit it, so we weren't just opening the gates and letting everybody in. Does that make sense?
Wait, no, say it again.
So we're gonna identify the students that need to come in, but it's only going to be up to 25% of the total of the cohort A and B. So we won't bring in more than 25% of what that cohort is. And the same thing when we get to the next date, it would be up to 50% of that cohort, but not more than that. So we're limiting the number of students that we're bringing in person there and keeping it to a reasonable number. Same thing when they get to 75%.
But so 75% of, sorry, Audrey, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the other piece is that, remember, with this plan, it's not every child. It's only people that wanted to come in or people that were determined that they needed to come in because they were having difficulty accessing online learning. So it's not a phase in like East Meadow is. It's either teacher determined or family determined, but there's a cap so that not everybody can, right? Am I?
Yep. See, that's why I keep getting hung up, is because that was one of the things I kept asking, is that I thought that with this hybrid, it was to get the students back in the high school. So I have asked a number of times, and I'm having a day. Apparently I'm incredibly dense, but if this is the case, then we're saying that there is never a phased in approach to get the rest of the kids back into the high school with the cohort thing.
The thing with the high school is they intermingle so much that they have to be really careful with how many kids they have come in because they rotate classes. They're not with the same classes and cohort, even though they're in a cohort, because they're not all taking the same classes. So that's like the key, is keeping those cohorts small. And I might be.
Then we should have more than an A and a B cohort then, because if the cohorts are that small, then there should be an A, B, C, D, E, F, G cohort, because we've got to figure out how to do it. And
Jen, maybe I'm misunderstanding it, but I'm not sure that it's that the cohorts are that small. It's just that once the cohorts are determined, up to 25% of that size will be coming into the building.
I'm worried about more about the 75%, because we're saying 75% of this group of population is students that are having trouble. And or Jen, or choosing in person, right? So there's that's not really.
Is Stephen with us? Stephen,
can I explain?
Can we have Stephen explain first, then we can continue our conversation.
No.
And Bill, thank you very much for jumping in.
Alex, is Stephen on?
Yep.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so I think, the up to is strategic, right? So that might only mean that 10% of our population is in at any time, but the cap is at 25%. In terms of Jen, the 75% at the committee, when we created this, we talked in a previous school committee meeting about the school committee making a decision about next steps at day 30 or so, but agreeing that we'd have a phased in hybrid model for day 45. The committee didn't feel that it made sense, both for that reason and the fact that things are changing 20 times a day. So planning beyond November 19th, in some ways, there wouldn't have been productive. But if in an ideal situation, you go 3 or 4 weeks out, like we did with each one of the phases, then it would be up to 100%. But each one of these is going to depend on a lot of information and data. The November 16th, we're clear that these phases we prioritize are going to prioritize our most high need and vulnerable students as determined by student support, their IEPs, and other information. Students who are disengaged. And then it says in the November 16th, if possible, students and families who choose in-person instruction support would be considered at that time, depending on our capacity in relation to that other group coming in.
Can I just jump on, piggyback off of what you said, Steve, just being in on all of those meetings too. I think it's important that we also look at, like you said, we focused on the first 45 days pending reassessing. Like this is not set in stone that, you know, after November 16th, no one else is coming in the building. Like, you know, we said there's so many moving parts, and with high schoolers, it's a totally different situation in a sense than the elementary students where they're mixing classes. They are more susceptible and able to transmit with their ages. There's a lot more moving parts in the health and safety, I think, in any children over age 10 is what we had talked about too. So just to have this kind of idea to get potentially up to 75% of the students in by November 16th, if they feel comfortable, allowed for the majority to potentially be back prior to even that December day 45 mark, because not everyone will choose to come back either. So, I mean, I think that was just kind of where my brain was at. Don't know if that made sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, I mean, to the point I made earlier about not planning out all the way until late December or January, I mean, here we are a week and a half later and we're already looking at September 28th versus September 21st. So all of this is obviously subject to constant change, as I think we've learned over the past month and a half or so.
Jen Millett, I think you had something to add. Jen?
No, I'm good.
You good?
Yep.
Okay. Jen Bartos, do you still have the same concerns or any other questions?
I'm really just feeling like an idiot today. It's like nothing's getting through this head of mine, so we'll just move on.
Any other questions related to the phase-in? Okay. So what we, again, had said in our motion a few weeks ago was that the school committee would vote on these phase-in plans and put these in motion. And also, not in the motion, but we mentioned that we would periodically review, especially when situation changes around us, to make sure that the timeline was still reasonable and something that we could follow. So with that, there's a vote on our agenda, and that is to approve these initial versions of the phase-in timeline. Is there? I'm gonna stop sharing so I can see your faces.
Emery,
Yes.
should you also vote the 28th as the start of the first phase?
If that is an absolute date that we're gonna be waiting for, sure, we can do that. Okay.
I was curious about that too, just based on the meeting today with Board of Health and the doctor. So that clarification would be helpful for us in communicating as well.
Do we have that as a definite yet, though?
They were supposed to confirm tonight that they're working with us to come up with the metric, but they did ask for us to extend it. You know, the 28th was based on the Board of Health's need for time.
Yeah, I think Dick Bombardier had said having that extra week, I think he said something along the lines would be extremely helpful in setting up a metric for a GRANBY specific metric. He said something along the lines of, well, a week might not seem like a lot, a week when we're talking about this would be very helpful.
They're also going through a transition in their department right now, so things are a little, or shifting a little bit for them. So I think that that time is important to give them if possible.
So can we even vote on it if we're not really 100% sure that the 28th is going to be a feasible work if we don't have the metric?
It sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like they specifically asked for the 28th, that extra week. And if that's the case, I guess currently it makes more sense than the 21st. And that was what I was trying to clarify as well. But at the same time, if we do agree on that 28th based on that guidance, at least it just, puts the word out there and everybody knows when we are expecting to start that phase of the plan.
Would we update that document to not say September 15th anymore, but then say September 28th, or even just put a line through it and then the new date underneath, or just leave it as phase 1?
I think September 15th is our remote start, and that doesn't change. That's still
Start school on the 15th.
Correct. Yes, I know that. But I guess the way the document's written.
Yes, and what we can do is I can alter the phases. And when I'll take out dates and put, the one
phase. Yeah, just because if I know the document's on the website, so if a parent goes to access it and then they're like, wait, what is this? Like, and then it adds to confusion where it's not needed.
I can update that. I'll put that down as something to do tomorrow.
That was specifically why the weeks were added under the date.
Correct. I remember, I was there. But
Okay.
at the same time, now that it's already kind of gone, I don't know. I think it adds to confusion more than clarifies at this point in that part.
Yeah.
so that means call it phase 2, but that's basically changing the September 21st date to September 28th.
Yes.
Audrey, you referred to September 15th. Where is that one that you were referring to?
That's the first day of school.
So that doesn't change, but I think Audrey, you mentioned that there is some date that mentions something on the 15th. Or did I misunderstand?
I know, no, because so I have the document right here. So all students begin remote learning, phase 1, kindergarten screening, Tuesday. Wait, I'm trying to reread it.
Okay.
So I'm gonna move the paragraph down that students in greatest need of additional support will go down a box. And it will say September 28th. And then this grade 1, grade 2 would go down.
October.
And, so I will amend this and get it reposted.
Okay.
This would be September 28th would be the students in greatest need. And then October, is it 5 is the next? Wait a minute.
Yep. But that would change, right? That would
Well,
change.
and even at that though, since this is a moving target, again, not beating a dead horse, if we just try to get in September 28th and then subsequently just put 1 week after and forget the dates in the other parts because it,
Perfect. Yes.
Carol, just to clarify, as we move the students in greatest need of additional support, which is the complex and significant high needs, ABA, structured learning, and pre-K special education students,
Yes.
you're suggesting that we move that into the next box.
The next box, and it will say.
Does the content of the next box also move?
That goes down a box. Yes.
So everything shifts by 1?
Yes. So the only thing up in the top box, would say all students begin remote learning. And kindergarten screening's got a.
I'm going to ask this question. So I completely understand why you are looking to move that section that starts with students in greatest need, down 1 box. And that's a group of potentially 10 or so students, roughly, right?
At East Meadow, yes.
At East Meadow. Does that change the grade 1 screening, grade 2 screening dates from the 28th? Or can just that students in greatest need be moved to the next box, 10th remains the same with the date changing to the 28th.
No, because I think it's going to be kindergarten screening is going to drop into that box. Along, the kindergarten screening will start the 28th and drop into that box. And then the grade 1 will drop into the next box.
Why does kindergarten screening have to switch back?
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
Sorry.
Bill.
Is there any way you would consider letting us do the case screening? It's going to be one-on-one, and we talked about doing it outside, and I just really hate to wait. And I just feel it's so important. And I don't know. I don't know if we could consider, to leave the case screening in there. If we're just going to be one-on-one, and we're going to set up the tables outside and we're going to have the teachers do it that way. I really think that we could do it. Parents wouldn't be there. Parents would, the limited contact with parents. We could set it up in a way that it was done and move it along.
That's
Well,
what I was just asking.
I'm going to jump in here and say, where are you going to have the parents stay? In the cars? And part of the reasoning of having the children come one-to-one was so the kids could see the classroom also. And now that's not going to happen. But that was part of the reasoning for the case screening in the one-to-one, is these kids coming into school and not knowing a teacher and not knowing the classroom, was they wanted them in the classroom. And Bill, I totally understand why you want to get it going, but I think that needs to be a conversation with the kindergarten teachers before you commit to it and suggest it.
Why? I don't understand why it couldn't happen though. What? I'm missing a piece. Is it because of the start date?
Do we need the Board of Health approval to have them come in?
So do we have the Board of Health approval to even, I guess that's where so they're pushing back the week, saying that's when they're giving the approval from? Or is it, I thought they were saying they're pushing back to give us a metric. So if we don't have approval, then we can't even really talk about this phased in thing.
Would it make sense, everyone, Carol and everyone, if we just vote on the fact that we're starting on September 15th as originally intended remotely, and the phase after that is now September 28th. If we are not sure whether or not, if we are not sure who's going to be in the buildings on that day, then this conversation will not really get us anywhere. So I'd rather really solidify who's going to be in the buildings, but set the date as September 28th. After September 15th, the next phase becomes September 28th. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Does the same apply for the high school? I believe it does, right? September 21st moves to September 28th, correct? Okay, so if that is acceptable by everyone, can we make a motion to approve September 15th as the remote start date, which we already did, but after that, moving to September 28th from September 21st.
Can we make the motion to approve the phase-in plan as amended?
But there are many pieces that we still need to amend, apparently, just, things shifting, groups moving back and forth, and I don't know that we are able to make that decision tonight.
With a phase 1 start date of September 28th.
I believe that makes it phase 2, right? The way phase 1 is called, September 15 is called phase 1 on this plan that we're looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So phase 1, in other words, the first day of school still is September 15th and everybody starts remote.
Yes.
And then the next date to phase in the groups that will be decided will be September 28th. And we can make that decision after we hear from the Board of Health following their Thursday meeting. at least we can establish that date as September 28th officially.
It was still considered phase 1 last time, even though it had a separate date.
Well, yeah, because so I think you're saying the same thing as what I'm going to ask Audrey, but the way this whole phase 1 block is, the students begin remote learning and the kindergarten screening starts simultaneously, is the way the original phase 1 is on the plan. So
Right.
we're saying that we can't even, this phase 1, I'll have to be completely changed to September
Carol,
20th.
do you expect anyone to be in the buildings on September 15th now, based on the conversations that the safety committee had this morning? So everything, all these boxes that initially mentioned students in greatest need or kindergarten screening on that September 15th date now has to shift out, correct? So the first day of school is completely remote on September 15th for everyone. And the next day where we will be able to do something by bringing students in will be September 28th. Is that a correct understanding?
Yes.
So does that, Audrey, Jen, does that answer your question?
Yes, so in a sense, we're adding a phase then.
Probably that's what's going to happen. Yeah.
Okay, yep.
Yeah.
I understand.
And so do I, but I just have one more question. So with the nobody in the building with full remote, that means the teachers that wanted to teach in the building are not allowed to come in either, right?
Wrong. If the teachers feel they need to teach from their classrooms, they will be in the building, just like the admin is in the schools now. There are no kids in the school, they would just be in their classrooms alone.
But it's their choice.
Correct.
Okay,
Does that answer your question, Jen?
I think so.
Okay. So I guess that was a good clarification. So we're talking about students really being in the building. So then I'm guessing our motion would be the phase-in timeline will begin on September 15th with all students remote without exception, right? And then the next step in the phasing moving to September 28th, details of which to be decided.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Is there a motion
I'll make the motion
to approve that one? Okay,
to approve it.
thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Stephanie. Any other questions or comments? Okay. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain? Okay. We have four approved, four in favor, one abstain, Jacqueline. Thank you, everybody. Now I have to find the agenda. Okay, the third item in this section is next steps on reopening planning. And Carol, I'm going to turn it to you again.
So a couple things that we are working on is reaching out. The admin assistants in each building are reaching out to every parent to confirm their information if they completed the form. I've been given some information that people had chosen hybrid, interested in hybrid, but not at this time because they thought if they didn't choose that, they wouldn't get a GRANBY teacher. So the admin assistants, I think, are finishing up and reaching out to all of the parents. And if they haven't filled out their form, they're being directed to fill out their form. If they filled out the survey, they're checking to verify that their responses are accurate and making any changes. So I have a meeting with both schools tomorrow to review that data. Now, that data is really important for us because we're using that data to determine the cohorts. So You have a question, Stephanie?
Carol, can you just confirm, sorry, bear with me. Are the admin assistants reaching out to every family or just the ones who chose hybrid?
I was told that they are reaching out to every family, but both you and Audrey.
I actually know a lot of people who said that they have not been reached out to. So that's my only concern.
Okay.
If you're going with data tomorrow, and I'm sure it's a daunting task that they're doing, so not to minimize it, but just as far as collecting the data for tomorrow, I'm not sure how much they have yet.
Okay.
I haven't been reached out to either, just to throw that into the mix, so.
Okay. All right.
Have that meeting at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, I will be checking in with them because they told, well, okay, I will follow up with them on that.
Carol, I do know we left a lot of messages.
Okay.
She did have to leave a lot of messages. I do know that in hearing what she was doing. So, she's been sitting there making those calls. And my suggestion would be, if there's a family that didn't get a call and you're talking to them, any of you, send me an email. Send me an email, and I will make sure that you're on the list and that you get that we get your information. Like, that's the best way to do it, I think. Make sure we have the right contact information. Make sure that we have all of that.
Since we started the calls, because we started them on the 18th, we've had 100 responses. 100 responses. Hold on. We went from 605 to 720. So people are getting on and doing it. But I was checking back to make sure that people that did choose, the extended hybrid, whether or not they really wanted remote, those were the kind of moves we were going to go through. So I will check with both schools tomorrow, because this is the data that we need to determine, our next steps in doing cohorts and in identifying those students that want just remote. So if any parents are listening, please, get on there. If you haven't done it, it is our way. I think we're up to, what did I say? We're at 720. So we're not missing too many more, because, we're a little shy of, I think it was what, 752.
750 plus, yeah.
Did
that change?
I have a message on my machine I haven't listened to, so it's possible that they reached out to me and I just didn't get it.
Okay.
I checked my messages, Carol, after we talked this morning, and I didn't have anything. So I was like, oh no, but I didn't have anything. So my answer's not changing if the office staff is looking or listening, but I will call.
Did the additional 100 or so, did the results change?
So the 100 that came in, there are less no's and more yeses. There was a good amount of yeses wanting to return. I think, this is the data I have currently is 83 total that wanted the delayed hybrid, and 78 that are looking for remote. So, it's about
160 plus, so that's.
Yeah, it's 171 total if we were to combine those two numbers. And, many, a good amount of them are at the high school, which you can be remote at the high school. So that's easy. And you can come in when you're ready to come in. It's pretty flexible. It's the elementary that we're really looking at. And I had a conversation with Bill today, about that, because we do have some high, a couple grades, that have a good number of, if you put together the delayed hybrid and the remote in second grade, you have 25 students, so it is a class, so we're going to be looking.
And the enrollment numbers that we just got, they were just put in the drive. There's not a column on there that says who's doing what. So like the second grade went up to 70 students. And so I was wondering if those 70 were inclusive of doing remote or whatever. So I was wondering about that. And I know we're probably going to get to it, but I was wondering if, you know, doing this call, if that somehow changed that number.
Well, the enrollment numbers have to do with the number of kids in a grade. It doesn't have to do with hybrid, remote, or remote. It's
Carol, I think that's what Jen is talking about, that if we knew based on the responses that you already received, what number corresponded to each one of those grades, that would give some picture as to, you know, how many students we should expect in the classroom and how many students from each grade we can expect to be remote.
Yeah, and that's why, you know, tomorrow I was going to be checking in with them so that we could have that information. You know, then I gave you the numbers that I have currently, you know, that tells you how many kids, you know, it's 171 right now that have completed the form that are looking at remote or a delayed hybrid.
I think the reason we got the enrollment numbers is we were looking at school choice.
Right, so I would like to revisit that enrollment number after we finish this. I just wanted to, like Emery was saying, it would make it helpful for us when we're looking at that for those numbers so we can see the overall picture. But I have a lot of questions on those enrollment numbers afterwards, so we can finish this part first and then move on.
Carol, I agree with you. First of all, you know, thanks to our administrative assistants to going through that list. Calling 700 and something people is not really the easiest task. But agreeing with what you said in terms of the importance of being able to understand exactly how many students and how many families are still intending to be in or be remote. If we can make sure that every household that needs to be reached is reached, and we know that we did, that would be great. So that, you know, without hesitation, we can tell everyone we did reach out, we talked, and then we have these numbers validated.
The other thing we can do too is we can send out, you know, an all call, you know, a robocall to the houses, you know, at both schools, and, you know, ask them to contact, you know, the office or complete the form. Because, you know, we are still shy, you know, some of, you know, so, you know, but it, you know, people got on there today, you know, and yesterday. Between today and yesterday, we had, a lot. 824, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We had 30 the past 2 days, you know, so they are reaching, but we still have some more to go.
There's a Gail, I see your hand. Are you still intending to add something, or? Okay.
I'm good.
Yeah, that was for Gail on the other side. I did not know whether it just stayed up from before. Okay, so anything else as far as next steps?
We are working, we start first day of PD tomorrow for our teachers. And so we have 12 days planned. We're also working with the union, you know, to, you know, come to a understanding and the changes that are taking place now that we are in the middle of a pandemic. So we're working on that as well.
Okay. As far as the next steps, there was a question that came up a few times. Is there a sample day added to the plans?
So in the folder should be there should be a one for.
I'm asking these questions mostly just for everyone's benefit, so you know that Can you
Yeah.
speak to that? Yep.
Yes, so in your folder, you should have a bell schedule from the high school, and you should have a sample slide from East Meadow. So if you'd like to share your screen, you could let the community see what that looks like.
I just want to thank you guys for that. I thought it was extremely helpful.
There was no picture of the bell, but that's okay.
No, there should be you should have, was it in, it should have been in the folder,
No,
Jacqueline.
I'm talking about the picture of the bell.
Oh,
Are you gonna
I
share?
thank you for that.
Emery, do you have it in your folder? Because
In my
Can
folder?
you share your screen, Emery, with it on there?
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Let me just refresh for a moment and I'll share it. Okay. Can you see it?
yes,
Okay.
that's the Granby Junior Senior High School, remote hybrid week 1/2, in-person day 1/2. So it gives you an idea of, what that will look like.
And there was a colorful one, which I assume that was,
Agenda, yeah, that one.
Yep, it's a picture. So that's the sample from East Meadow, which is similar to what the students will receive.
cool. And this is in the plans now? I didn't check to see if they were added to the plans.
It was my understanding that this was just a sample.
Yeah.
It's not like a definite what's going to be happening.
It's a sample of what it would look like in a day for the children.
Can we call it a sample agenda on top and then add it to the plan so that everybody, one-stop shop, they can just see what the sample looks like? That would be very helpful.
I can certainly put, add these to the plan.
All right. Thank you, Carol. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other questions on the next steps? Okay. So since we just started talking about it, the last thing that was related to this part of the conversation is enrollment. I understand there are questions, and let's start with your questions, Jen.
Hold on, I gotta look at it again, so I don't make any more of an ass of myself than I did not have already today.
So overall, what we are seeing is between June 2020, a couple of months ago, and now we have 10 fewer students in the school district. Is that correct, Carol?
Yes.
And those are those school choice students or students who moved away or students who decided homeschooled?
So in the East, so we have new students. Okay, so we have, let's see, how many? We have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 4 new kindergartners, and we have 1 new school choice kindergartner. So we have a total of 5 new kindergarten. First grade, we have 1 school choice, and we have 5, so a total of 6 first graders. So you have 5 residents and 1 school choice. When you go to second grade, we have 2 new residents. When you go
Is this on the paper? I'm sorry to interrupt. Is this on the?
No.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait a minute. Where are you seeing this from?
this stuff has students' names.
Yes, okay. And
So,
their new school choice,
so,
kindergarten?
yeah, so the kindergarten is 1 K new student and 1 first grade new student, school choice.
But the overall numbers, based on this total district enrollment that I'm seeing, we went down.
So
I'm looking at.
if I can talk to withdrawals too. I was starting with new students. So I have 2 charts, so.
With new students, I thought that we were freezing new school choice students coming in for
As-
this year.
As of the 17th. So students entered between the time you voted till August 17th.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to get the numbers and I was just confused there. Okay.
I mean, you froze it as of August 17th. People have been applying since January, you know. You have second grade, 2 new residents. You have third grade, 1 new resident. You have fourth grade, 1 new resident. You have fifth grade, a new resident. And for sixth grade, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 new residents.
So can we just look at second grade for a moment? I see a number in this total district enrollment, second grade, June 2020 was 53 students. August shows 70 students, but you just said there was only 2 new residents. So where did the other 25 students come from?
So
We allowed 2 new ones in second grade where it was already a huge group.
They were residents. You
Would
have
that
to.
have been
Okay.
last year's
Got it.
second grade, and now you're looking at this year's incoming second grade?
I don't know. I'm just looking at the sheet that I was sent, and it says second grade, June 2020 enrollment was 53. August, I'm assuming 2020 says 70.
I
Yeah,
think Robin is correct. That potentially, is that what it is? Because those numbers make more sense when you look at it that way. Otherwise, there are huge fluctuations.
Yeah, so the kindergarten from June is now first grade.
Well, that chart isn't really helpful then.
Is it
Right.
Is that grade 2?
So-
Last year's grade 2 was the big almost 70 number. So is that?
So Stacy's on. So Stacy, you want to jump in?
Yes, so the numbers are for the previous year. So in June 2020, in second grade was 53, now it's 70. If you want to shift everything down, if you look at grade 1, it was 69. August of this year is 70, so we went up. These numbers that you see in this chart were based on Saturday. As of today, enrollment was still shifting, so the numbers that Carol's reading to you are a different enrollment status, because these are still shifting every day until 9/15. 9/15/2020 will be your accurate enrollment numbers.
Stacy, can you just clarify for me? So are these grade level numbers that I'm looking at right now from school year 2019 to 2020?
Yes,
Okay.
and shift everything down 1.
But so
So
they don't line up then? They're like sideways? Is that
I
what-
was
Diagonal.
just yes, it's diagonal. I was comparing just where we ended
Okay.
for pre-K and then just go down 1. So
It would have been nice to have a little disclaimer with that, because that was
Yeah.
freaking out. And also then, so we gained a ton then for kindergarten, because we only had 39 and now we have 53.
correct. So those 39 were in pre-K. When we go to kindergarten, because pre-K is not a required
Right.
grade level. So we have students that have never attended pre-K coming from Children's First or other private pre-Ks within the area. So kindergarten is always a huge jump.
But just to clarify again, that kindergarten number was last September's kindergarten. We going forward.
Yes,
September 15th, it was that pre-K 39 number. So do we currently not have a pre-K number going into September on this?
You have
20.
you have 22.
The column on the right is what we currently are, and that's the right grade, but everything else goes diagonal and to the right, down and to the right. What's that, southeast, southwest?
Okay. So I guess that's another question I had too then. We have 22 preschoolers in 2 classrooms that are half day.
Yes, currently, I mean, but we have, she can only count those that have been enrolled. You know, we have peer partners that have not enrolled.
Okay.
We also just hired another 5th, correct? We have 3, right?
Yeah.
Oh, look, that would have been.
That would have been nice and a half.
I need to like zoom in on that somehow.
We could color code it.
Right.
That's what I used to do. Color code the grades for attrition.
Where is that 3rd, 5th grade classroom going?
Where, well, that's all going to be based on the number of students that go remote. So if we have an entire 2nd grade that goes remote, you know, we may not need a 2nd grade. We have an entire class of 4th grade. So, I mean, it opens up space.
But ultimately, as we phase in throughout the year, hopefully, and get more students in, I'm just wondering, do we have a home-based classroom for those kiddos to go to if at some point we're all, you know, phasing in, is my question.
Yeah, I believe so, because we're in hybrid this year. The chances of us going full in person, I mean, that would be lovely. But I don't know if they're going to have a vaccine and have people feeling safe to come in. I mean, most of those people that have signed on for remote have signed on for remote for the year.
So they don't have a choice to come back?
By that, have we done that? Because that makes my survey questionable, because I certainly want to throw this out there. I didn't intentionally sign my children up remote for the year. I thought we were doing like I didn't know if we were doing a time frame that we were committing parents to. That was actually a question I had for you guys, because I could see people flip-flopping back and forth. And are we securing people to say you have to commit for 45 days, 60 days of whatever choice? Or
I'm trying to find the form question, but I believe.
But I suppose regardless of the question, say I chose remote and then decided, you know what, actually, I want to bring my children in hybrid. And then after 2 weeks, you know what, that actually didn't work for us, let's go remote. I'm just trying to think of, is there a set plan so we're not playing a ping pong game?
Right. The survey said remote or hybrid later. So.
Right, but it didn't say for the year.
I don't have the question in front of me. Stacy, do you have the question, the response? I'm trying to.
I do. So the 2 options for that was, my student is interested in the hybrid plan, but not comfortable starting now and would like to begin remotely and transition into hybrid. Or my student will not be attending in person, but would like to attend GRANBY Public Schools remotely for the year.
Correct, but that first option though, which I'm going to be honest, like that's what I chose, did not have a time frame as to how long that period would be. So that's where I'm questioning the whole for the year aspect comes from.
But
because the second question, some parents are choosing that their students will be remote for the entire year. That was the option that they chose. Yours is that you are, willing to phase in when you feel comfortable.
Right, and I was just looking at the data that Carol and Bill have referenced where a vast majority was going towards that hybrid. Carol mentioned it even tonight though, and just making sure, that's why I was just asking about the classrooms, if we did have room for, at some point, if we are phasing in at say 85%, I remember was a number Bill had mentioned a while ago, that we do in fact have room for that. That's all I was checking with this additional 3rd, 5th grade classroom. Because I know last year we were short 3 classrooms, and now I'm just trying to figure out where that extra one came from, I suppose.
Well, it was understanding that we had a number of students at asking for remote for the year.
Are we asking those preschool families if they intend to be remote for the year for our?
So we have that, we
Also,
have preschool that's filling out as well.
I mean, because for right now to see 11 and 11 and the capacities of those rooms could fit one group being AM, one group being PM.
Well, just like with the upper grades, you know, we want to keep their classes small. I mean, they're supposed to not exceed, you know, 15. So we were looking at trying to keep them, you know, at 7 so that they could move about the classroom and not, you know, and have space.
But that would give us about 5 to 6 if all 22 came in person. So say 5 don't come, then are we gonna have a classroom with 1 or 2 students? I suppose, I think, Audrey, that's where you were going, right? Okay.
Yes. I mean, we're as we said, if we have more remote and we have an opening, you know, I believe we have more on the wait list, you know. Megan said she'd like to comment on that question, if Alex could bring her in.
I apologize. Who am I bringing in?
Megan Shepard. So Stephanie, I just pulled up your response and it says, my student will not be attending in person, but would like to attend GRANBY Public Schools remotely for the year. And about transportation, my student will not be attending in person.
I mean, I'm comfortable personally telling my opinion, but I will also say, Carol, I did a follow-up email to Bill the second I pressed submit, because I had so many questions at that point. I was under the impression we didn't have GRANBY teachers. I was under the impression we were going to the state option. So that's where those follow-up survey phone calls too, I mean, do play a big part, because we've changed a lot of major decisions. 6th grade moving to the high school was off the table. Like I said, the remote learning totally changed. So yeah, those surveys had questions, and I emailed Bill immediately following my response, and I actually have not gotten a response back. Sorry, I didn't want to put that out there, but if you're going to bring up my specific survey, I just want it fully out there.
Yeah, I was just, you know, you had said that you didn't know it was a year. That's why I just, you know.
Hey, Carol, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. I apologize. So with regards to preschool, the rooms we have capped off at 12 per session right now. And our preschool teachers are actually reaching out to families tomorrow to go through and ensure their placement. And then we have several students who are waiting in the wings for referrals, which is why we don't want to cap, you know, even though we have 22 students, we still have to divide them between peers and students with IEPs. And then we also have to make sure we have room for our new referrals as they come throughout the year. And then we do still have peers that are interested in enrolling in GRANBY preschool as well. So we're just trying to figure out, after we canvass our preschool students that are currently in the enrollment, whether or not we'll be able to have additional space for them, you know, looking at 3 or even possibly 4 sections, depending on their responses. Does that clarify things for you?
That helps, Megan. Do you have, were you polling those families too, though, to see if they were, what the number was for anyone choosing remote, just to?
Yep. So we have, there are a couple students right now that we have talked to, but that's why we're having the preschool teacher reach out again tomorrow to ensure like that's their plan. But recognizing that preschoolers are, part of that high and complex needs, like if those students, want to come back, they should be able to later on in this year. And I agree, like we should have some sort of like metric for them, but part of the reason why they might want to come back is because remote learning in a preschool environment may not work for them. And so we want to be able to receive them readily so that they can continue to get their, the support they need to make progress.
Yeah, we currently only have one that chose remote.
I think I have two, Carol. So on my list, but the challenge with preschool is that they tell us and we send out registration packets. And because we closed and we're unsure of how the school year was going and whether preschool was being prioritized or in person, we haven't been able to send out those letters and that information. And that's where now we feel like we have a plan and we're able to do all of that. And that's what we're reiterating to parents tomorrow.
Thanks, Megan.
No problem. Thank you.
I just have one more question about grade 6 and actually 4. Well, sorry, not grade 5 anymore, but just grade 6 specifically. If they're at 50 students right now, and we do cohort A and B, right? We only have 2 classrooms for 6th grade, so it's 25 and 25. And the rooms can only hold 12. I know that we're still talking remote and everything. I'm just really looking at the bigger picture though, of ensuring if our students want a spot in their class that we do in fact have room for them.
Well,
Stephanie, it looks like it's 46 for grade 6. Is that what you said?
No, according to the arrow, I thought it was 50.
Nope.
No, it's 46 right here, August.
Oh, sorry. Yep, 46. Okay, so 46 is 23 and 23, and we can fit 12 in each classroom is my question.
Yep.
And as we know, the numbers are changing day to day. I mean, I heard we actually had quite a few resident enrollment, which was fantastic. Love that people are moving to town, but just to add in, like those are questions in the back of my mind that if 80+% want to come hybrid, that we do in fact have the room for them.
So if we get 50, then that would be 25 and 25. So, but we do have on the list right now for grade 6, 4 people, asking for full remote. So that brings the number down.
We still need a plan going forward though, where we're keeping a cluster small so that we don't end up with these giant numbers. Our building is only so big. We need to plan for that.
Yeah.
Well, if you have let me play this out for me to understand. So if you have 46 students currently for grade 6, 4 of them said, I want to be fully remote. That's 42, right? So we have 2 classrooms. That's 21 per classroom. If it's 21 per classroom and we're going to have alternating
11.
cohorts in the hybrid,
Yeah.
so we have enough room for all those students. Is that what we're saying?
That it would be 11, 12 for each. So if half the students are in school on Monday and Tuesday, that would be 2 classrooms of 11 and 12. And then on Thursday and Friday, the other half comes in and it will be classrooms of 11 and 12.
Right.
So they're never going to go over.
Is that what the question was? I just want to also make sure that I understood the question correctly. But based on that, when we account for students who are remote, take them out of these numbers, and then account for the alternating schedule for hybrid and split them into multiple classrooms. I think even in those 2 classroom settings, currently hybrid would work, it seems.
I think with those numbers that you just gave though, like that was by one student, right?
No, I took out, it was 46
Took out 4.
divided by 2 because you split them in 2. And
Correct.
then I divided by 2 classrooms, because if they're in 2 classrooms, that's 11 for one classroom and 12 for another classroom. And then it would be the same for the second half, the second group coming in.
Correct. But those classrooms can only fit 12. So we're,
So
on
we're
the-
So
11 and 12.
So we're still can fit.
right, so we're right. Yeah, so we're
So
right.
Stephanie, that 11 and 12 is including the 5 remotes already.
Correct. Okay.
Cool. The nice thing is everybody likes numbers, and you know that's great. So we like looking at enrollment numbers. I don't know if Stacy's still with us, or you know, Carol, maybe you can help out as we are looking at enrollment. It always helps to have some of the differentiators, because honestly, I'm just from memory, I know that we have 2 grades with 2 classrooms and all that, but it's it always helps to have that. And if for the purposes of the conversation, resident versus school choice, in this case, I don't see that it was relevant because we did not apparently add anyone, but
What is at the bottom of this sheet, though? There was something on the bottom right, out of district enrollment, but that's new out of district enrollment?
yeah, actually, that's a good question. Are these folks from our district that went somewhere else, or?
Yeah, I wasn't
No,
sure.
out of district enrollment is special education students that are outplaced.
Oh,
That's what out of district enrollment is.
So I can let you know, I mean, we have the withdrawal information. Again, it was by student, but we had one in kindergarten, in pre-K, we had 2 residents move. We had one moving to Dakota and one choosing homeschool. Then you have 2 Ks. We have a resident choicing out to a different district, and you have another resident that moved to Brimfield. So a total of 4 that we lost in.
are those accounted for here in these numbers, Carol?
Stacy, are these accounted in these numbers?
No, because those withdrawals are just coming in. So the numbers that are in this chart are based on Redeker. Per Redeker, students are not officially enrolled. New students aren't officially enrolled or withdrawn until the first day of school, which is 9/15. So the numbers that Carol's reading to you are not yet into the Redeker system, but are being kept by the administrative assistants.
So Stacy, that's good to know. Let me ask this way. Whether Redeker has it in an official database or not, from our perspective, are those students officially out of GRANBY, or do we wait until that point in time where Redeker makes it official? I'm just trying to understand the significance of Redeker.
So Redeker is the student information system that
Right.
speaks to the state.
Yeah.
So the state does not officially see them as withdrawn or enrolled until the first day of school.
But do we know officially that they are
Withdrawn or enrolled?
withdrawn or enrolled? Yeah.
If we've received paperwork that the administrative assistants have, that is right now where we stand.
Oh my God.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, this is the age-old question. So you're not the first one receiving it. It's always been confusing to me that there are so many systems and databases and numbers that we are keeping and all that. But for our purposes, we really are trying to understand where we stand. And if the numbers that you are talking about, whether they made it to Redeker or not. If they are official, they are the numbers that I think would be more relevant for our conversation here. So that's helpful to know that we have about 4 fewer students potentially in one of those grades.
So I can actually quickly, so we have 5 new kindergartners, but we lost 4. So we're up 1. In first grade,
And Carol, I'm sorry, when you say up 1 compared to the numbers we are seeing in the August column, or is that already accounted for here? You know?
Stacy. Well, that's Stacy.
Yeah, I'm here.
I
So
don't.
we're really trying to analyze these numbers right now, but for what purpose? Just because we also have a thing after this.
So we're not really trying to analyze. I'm just trying to understand, since you guys had questions and you had concerns about some of the classrooms and whether or not hybrid would be applicable based on the numbers. I'm just trying to understand if there's any slack in these numbers that may answer your questions. Otherwise, I'm good with these numbers.
Yeah, I think we need to wait until we see what the full remote says, really. It's again, we're like getting half data. Like this would have been great data last week before making the school choice vote, or like it's still, like I feel like we're like a week behind when we get stuff sometimes.
Based on the data that Stacy gave me, if we look at new students, we only have 2 new school choice students based on this data. So 1 in K and 1 in first. So
Thank you, Carol.
you're welcome.
All right. Unless there are any other questions, I'm going to move it to the next section. This was good conversation. Thank you all for the questions and comments. Stacy, thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, the task of finding the agenda on my screen.
So there's superintendent's reports, and I think
Do you have one, Carol?
I think you've heard plenty from me tonight.
Okay. Adam, how about business office and facilities?
A folder, for the sake of time, I didn't know if we wanted to review this, but in the folder is that report from Colliers. I'm not sure if everyone reviewed that.
Yes.
Into a lengthy discussion, but I didn't want to.
No, we don't. Honestly, anybody feel free to jump in. We don't really need a lengthy discussion on that one because I'm not sure that what I'm looking at and whether or not it is supposed to be telling something to us. I mean, I don't understand air ventilation reports and all that. But what I'm understanding, based on very quick, there may be some information in there that may be relevant to COVID based on the title of it. Do you have anything that you can share, whether or not that's the final report, or is there anything else that we're going to be receiving? I don't want to jump ahead, but I know that the Board of Health at least had a cursory review, and they may talk about it on Thursday at their meeting. But is there anything else that needs to happen with respect to air ventilation report or air quality report? Do you know?
From my perspective, from John's perspective, no, we did what the Board of Health asked. We had an ASHRAE certified vendor come in to review our air ventilation systems. And that's what they wrote up in the report. East Meadow is working as it should. Obviously, it's a newer building. And the high school, as long as we keep some windows open, the exhaust fans on, that's how air will ventilate in that building. So based on the Board of Health's request for us to get an ASHRAE certified vendor in to do that, that's what we got. And I know John said it before, and I've said it before, there's no vendor that's going to come in and do an air quality test. There's no vendor that's going to come in and say, okay, this is the quality of your air. it's COVID free or you're good to go. Like that's not going to happen. So the report that we got from Colliers is what the Board of Health requested. They made their points in that report, and we'll go from there. I don't know what else the Board of Health would want us to do, but that's as far as I'm concerned, we did what they asked us to do.
Okay, so that's good to know. That means we are now waiting for them to review and whether or not they have any questions on any one of the numbers that are included in that report. Is that fair? Okay. So with that, are there any questions based on your review, anyone of the Collier's report? And I didn't mean to be fresh, Adam. I honestly have no idea how to read that except for the verbal part, which parts of which seem to repeat what we knew, especially with respect to East Meadow, because it was a new building and, you know, we were involved in that. So it was good validation on some things, but as far as the numbers, I don't know what they mean and what we were looking for. So I just wanted to confirm.
To be honest, I don't know what those numbers mean either. I just went right to the actual write-up to see what they had to say. So I don't know what those numbers mean either.
Okay, so I guess the next step is for us to wait for the Board of Health feedback, since they already have the report and they did the first pass, but they may have some official feedback for us after their meeting on Thursday. Yeah, I'm at the very least, I'm happy that we did that. I mean, we basically, as you said, it was a requirement. We had a vendor from our state recommended list that was certified came in and did the analysis. And because they are doing this type of analysis, I guess that's the reason why they titled their report as COVID something. What do they call it? They called it
I'm mute.
COVID commissioning support. I guess that's how they are doing the analysis and reporting.
I suppose, I mean, my biggest question, and there are people on here, and I just want to be as transparent as possible, but the summaries were very brief, and I thought pretty easy to follow. I'm not sure. Can we just go through those for people that are asking? I mean, the HVAC system has been a very big topic of conversation. I'd like to set out whatever facts we have. Like I said, it was like a paragraph on each one.
That's fair. Let's do that. So what part, Stephanie? This is a 2-page written report.
Right, I just thought at least the summary for each building was only, I believe, about a paragraph each.
Okay, so let me do this. So for East Meadow, system schedule should be adjusted to allow all the units to start 2 hours prior to school and run for at least 1 hour after all school activities have been completed. The current occupied schedule is from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. Systems should start 2 hours before school and continue operating for 1 hour after school ends. And toilet exhaust fans should operate 24/7. Those were the recommendations. The second one for East Meadow is air handling unit outside air dampers and airflows should be increased where possible to provide additional fresh air into the building. And these are obviously adjustable. The system allows for it, and these are recommendations from the consultants. For the junior senior high school, each classroom utilizes a unit ventilator for fresh air intake. It was noted that the fresh air dampers were not working properly. The dampers appeared to be stuck in the recirculation position, thus they were not introducing fresh air into the space. Recommend looking into the operation of all unit vents to ensure proper damper position, allowing the maximum amount of outside air into the space. And the second item on the summary for junior senior high is all exhaust fans that serve bathrooms, locker rooms, and the cafeteria should be switched to 24/7 operation. Was there anything else that you thought would be of interest, Stephanie, or anyone else?
Well, so to that regard, I'm assuming, Adam, that they're taking note of what needed to be changed and are working on it, or?
Of what needs to be working.
The high school's fans that were sent to recirculate versus did they fix that immediately? Was there parts that needed to be ordered?
I'll start with number 2, the exhaust fans. That's controlled electronically. John can do that, so that's a simple fix. We can switch them to be operational 24/7. The dampers in the recirculation position. I'm not sure if John's on here to talk about that. I don't know much about that, but I do know that even leaving windows open during the day will introduce fresh air into these spaces. So even though these recirculation dampers aren't working, having windows open, doors open throughout the building, windows open throughout the building will introduce fresh air into the building. And then the exhaust fans will, we don't want to use the word circulate, but will take that fresh air, move it through the building, and then put it out in the building. So having the windows and doors open throughout the high school will serve the purpose of getting enough fresh air into our spaces. And that is one of DESI's is having windows and doors open throughout the day.
Which, while I agree with that, but when it's winter and our heat in that building is already ridiculous, is that going to add to additional oil consumption of kicking the heat on even more than it already does? Which I hear they already roast over there.
Well,
yeah, but I do know this. Even during the winter, we have classrooms that have windows open during the day. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure how much that would change it, but I do know on a normal winter there are windows open during the day in much of the classrooms, especially upstairs.
And Audrey, I don't want to speak on their behalf, but my understanding of the Board of Health's stance is that the air ventilation systems often, or maybe always, are initially calibrated for efficiency, the way you're talking about it. Their concern at this time is not efficiency, but to make sure that the right circulation exists in both schools. So if it happens that, whether in East Meadow or in junior senior high, the efficiency of the system changes somewhat. I don't know what that number is, obviously, and that's to be monitored, as you mentioned. I think that may be how it plays out. That we recalibrate to make sure that the concentration of air is meeting some of the requirements and expectations, as opposed to the efficiency of the system at that point in time. So there may be some additional costs.
So just to touch on that though, if it's raining, for example, and we can't have the windows open, that's just a question I was going with. And with the doors being open, I assume that would be a security thing too. If it's allowing out fresh air in, are those security doors that we're just leaving open to circulate? I can't imagine.
My understanding was no outside doors.
Yep. So hold on. So when I say doors, I don't mean them leaving open, but the process of them opening and closing throughout the day and letting fresh air in, along with having windows open, would get the fresh air into the building. We're not leaving any exterior doors open, but having people come in and out of the building and the process of those doors opening and closing throughout the day, along with having windows open, will introduce fresh air into the building.
So again, not to stifle the conversation, but it seems to me that we don't really have answers to that. And once the Board of Health has an opportunity to review, maybe we can meet with them and ask these questions to get our answers. I think you're asking some good questions. The weather is not always going to be cooperating. We don't exactly know what the numbers mean. Some of these recommendations, we don't know what they're going to entail in terms of, one of you mentioned parts or some fixing and this and that. I think we're going to be in a better position when we hear back from the Board of Health. So we know what questions to ask, and we know from them what the expectations are.
I think it would be good to hear at some point whether or not some of those things need repair, and so if that could possibly.
Absolutely. I mean, I can tell from the sentence, that's absolutely a valid question that we need to find out about. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So John just let me know that all of the recommendations for the high school have been taken care of. So anything that they recommended for the high school and East Meadow, they have been taken care of.
Okay. So very quick question, and after telling everyone we would wait, I don't know if you may have the answer to this. What happens after we take care of these things? Does it mean that they have to come back and redo, or?
I think that would be up to the board. I would assume. I mean, as
Board of
long
Health?
as.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'm assuming. That's my assumption. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either.
They gave us some
Yeah.
They gave us some recommendations. John took care of them. I would say maybe the Board of Health would want them to come back out. I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's good to know. And thank you, John, if you're listening. Thank you for very quickly taking care of that. I'm sure we're going to find out. These are recommendations, and the validation part of it, it would be good to know how quickly and when that will happen. Cool. Any other questions on the report, on the Collier's report? Yeah, and maybe it's not necessarily all that bad, everyone, that the Board of Health meeting moved to Thursday evening. We may be able to watch it and and follow the conversation since we're not meeting that night.
And if necessary, Emery, participate.
Yes. Yep. I'm not sure if I'm going to be available, but if I am, absolutely, I will be there. Okay. So let's move to Adam. Do you have anything? Well, actually, we're still on your agenda item. Just anything on the finances?
Closing out FY20, and I know the town still hasn't closed out June. So I'm just waiting for them to close out June on their side, and then send me the reports that I'll need to reconcile our end of year report. So I don't have anything on FY20 for tonight, and FY21. I mean, we're only a month in or so. As far as budget at the state level, it's still kind of been quiet since they moved to have a budget through the end of October. I'm assuming now that we're almost in September, those talks will ramp up soon about what's going to happen post October. So if I hear anything, obviously I will share with the committee.
Okay. All right. Anything that may be affecting FY21 budget based on some of the conversations that we had? For instance, the remote, if the duration of remote once we start is extended, is that a conversation that we're going to have with the bus company, for instance? Is it already in motion that, if things change, we would sit down and have a conversation because it would not need the buses?
Has been started. Again, we're waiting for more.
Adam, there's something with your microphone that it comes and goes. Nope.
Adam, it's like when you first start talking, it doesn't catch your first words and then it goes in. So anytime you pause, we miss the beginning of what you say.
No. So right now,
can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can.
Okay. So yes, the talks have been going on with the bus company. I've been talking with them, Belchertown. Again, we were waiting on some more survey results, so we knew what the picture was going to look like for transportation. We've received, as Carol's pointed out, a lot more responses for that survey. And hopefully within the next few days, next week or so, we'll have all the survey information back. We'll know what transportation might look like, and then we can get into those heavy conversations with the bus company as to what transportation will look like. I think it's just going to be a moving target all year, unfortunately. But we'll have those conversations, and I will keep everyone obviously up to date when I do and what comes of those conversations.
Any questions, any other questions for Adam? FY20 or 21, Audrey?
Yes, I do. Last time we had asked if there were any additional expenses due to professional development and all of that. And at the time, the answer was no. But my question is going forward, I'm assuming that we're doing all in-house professional development. Are we going to have opportunities? And right now I know the teachers are all very worried about their workloads and whatever else to not be jumping into anything that would require them. But do we have options to stipend them if they start joining committees, or if they're joining, taking on being the go-to person, or, you know, how that's all working?
I believe there's postings up right now.
There are, okay.
Yep.
But I'm assuming that's already all factored in with
Yeah,
the budget that we already have.
Yeah, those are costs we would incur on a normal year. So we wouldn't, you know, we didn't attribute those to anything due to COVID. So yeah, those are all already built in to our budget on a yearly basis.
Okay. I just knew because obviously there's 10 extra days than usual. So.
But there was a conversation, if that's what you are also referring to, Audrey, that we talked about an additional nurse, you know, when we return to the building, to have one nurse at each clinic. And then there was some conversation around filling a vacancy on the custodial side, but also making sure that we understand whether or not we're going to need more as we go forward and our needs become a little more clear. Right?
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Thank you,
Can
Audrey.
I actually ask something about that nursing position that like we had seen earlier? And I could be totally out of line here, but I'm just curious. I felt like, and it didn't really occur to me until after the fact, it was such a long meeting, but is $30,000 a typical, that just seemed like a really low monetary amount to get a registered nurse?
Okay. Nancy?
The position is a per diem position. It's a long-term self per diem. So they would only be coming in when we have students in the building. They would not be getting paid while we are working remotely. So they're coming in as needed when we need the services. So that's about $30 an hour. Normal sub pay for schools right now for sub nurses is between $25 to $30 an hour.
And based on that, Stephanie, actually 30,000 number may be on the high side.
Absolutely. I didn't even think that would be a per diem or sub position. So that just clarified that for me. I was just thinking, wait, full time. I don't think we're going to get anyone at that. Okay, thank you. Can I also ask about the tech coordinator position that I saw? Is that a stipend position, or is that I just saw it posted maybe yesterday or the day before?
I think, Bill, did you post that?
It is. It's a stipend position at East Meadow. I believe it's part of their librarian's job description, I believe. But it is a stipend position at East Meadow that we've had in previous years. And I believe it's for, but if Bill wants to correct me.
Which position was that?
That was actually my understanding already, Adam. You just answered it perfectly. I thought it was, I just wanted to verify that was a stipend position. I knew that I thought we had it previously from our librarian. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't just a same thing.
What was it, Stephanie? Tech?
It was a tech coordinator. I believe previously the librarian has taken that position in with hers as a stipend. I just wanted to make sure that that's what it was and it wasn't a totally new position that I missed or something like that.
Okay.
No, it's been there every year.
All right, thank you all for your clarifications.
Thank you. All good? All right, so just want to wrap this segment by saying that the Finance and Budget Subcommittee has been meeting. We already had 2 meetings, and we also decided to meet Thursday before every school committee meeting to see what we would bring to the school committee meetings with respect to finances and any other budget related information. So we will have a lot more. Obviously, you know, all these conversations around the plans and all the details around them, we did not get a chance to get into, but we're looking forward to having a lot more on that front too. Okay, thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
All right, so Jen, do we have anything new from the collaborative?
No.
No, you did not meet. Okay. All right. Is there anything that we did not touch upon, or anything that now you want to suggest for our next meeting? Obviously, you can always reach out and we can add whatever topics you would like to see in the on our agenda. I'm talking to the school committee members, but is there anything that you think is important for us to mention now?
So the next time we meet, are we going to see more of hopefully that remote versus hybrid versus breakdown?
Yeah.
And then also, I just want to, Emery, I had talked to you about this earlier this week, which I guess was only just yesterday, but about the high school sports, if we need to vote on that. I know I saw her name in the list of attendees, so I don't necessarily want to put her on the spot. But
So come on down, Allie.
I can let you know, Allie was supposed to be on the agenda for Board of Health tonight. So I'm assuming she'll be on Thursday, so she should have information for the next meeting.
Okay.
So can you just explain to me, does the Board of Health have to vote on it first and then we vote on it? Or is it both? Is it a both thing or just a Board of Health thing?
So technically the Board of Health right now, they issued the no playing on town fields or parks. And to our knowledge, that has not been lifted. So I know Board of Health has the power to shut it down. So she is being proactive and going to them first because they could shut it down. So with their blessing, hopefully we can come here, and then I think school committee and principal need to approve from that point.
Allie, is there anything you wanted to add?
Sorry, it's hard to keep my kids quiet right now. No, Steven said everything. I've been trying to email Emery and Jen all the guidance that I get. As soon as I get it, I forward it to both of them to keep them in the loop. But yeah, as Steven said, the Board of Health had put out that statement, and my thoughts today, I was going to go with the Board of Health. We sat in the meeting, we actually could hear everybody talking. So they shut it down and said we're going to go on Thursday. I actually did not get on the agenda for today. That was my intention, but apparently I didn't get it to them in time. But they said it was an item for discussion. So she did email me tonight, and my hopes was I'll get on the next one. It's a bit of a process. So my thoughts with speaking with them tonight as an item for discussion was just to reinforce that we're happy that the MIAA, the EEA, all these acronyms, and DESE has all agreed to allow sports for the fall season in an abbreviated manner. As long as we're following stringent restrictions and modified rules and just making sure we're following clear health and safety parameters, which we will obviously do. So my plan of attack was to speak with them as an item for discussion, and then once I get the word and the support from them was to bring it to the school committee, and then for Steven for final blessing. But it's definitely a lengthy process, and they've changed their dates a couple times on start dates. Things could look a whole heck of a lot different though. I will throw it out there. If we were in a red situation, that won't go well for us. So we got to keep doing what we're doing right now and stay out of the red. If we were in a red situation on September 18th, that would postpone our entire season. So we, I just wanted to throw that out there and make sure everybody's well aware of that. So, but yeah, that's it really. And if I get any other updates, I'll send it your way.
Yeah,
One
thank-
question real quick, would it be, is it season by season, like the September 18th red would postpone the fall season and then we would have another opportunity to do the next season and then the floating season and then the summer season, or is it like a one-shot deal?
Nope, it's definitely not a one-shot deal. In the guidance on page 2, Jen, that I had sent.
Yeah, I
both
read
the-
it and I just want to, because I know people are asking me, so I just want to have it out there because not everyone's seen the guidance, just so that
Yeah,
there's.
so I've been trying to tweet everything out that I get that's relevant information as opposed to hearsay. I always tell everyone to just come to me right away.
Thank
I'd
you.
rather them hear it from the horse's mouth myself. And no, their plan is to reassess. So they are taking it season to season right now.
Thank you.
And they
I just
have-
wanted to get it out there.
Yeah, no, definitely. And there's a lot of information out there. So just trying to keep your head above water and wait for, DESE and EEA and all these acronym people, to put out the guidances. It's hard to be patient, but at the same time, I know everybody's so excited to get back on the fields. Like, I get it. We're trying, but we can only do what we can right now. I'm obviously going to advocate as much as I can for it. And yeah, that's all I got.
Thank you.
Thanks,
You're
Alex.
welcome.
All right. So with that brings us to the end of our open session. We have an executive session. And for that, we're going to vote to enter into executive session under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21, Part 3, to discuss strategy with regard to negotiations with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. The committee will not be returning to open session. Jacqueline, can we have a roll call, please?
Sure. Ms. Hudak?
Yes.
Ms. Parent?
Yep.
Ms. Smollett?
Yep.
Ms. Bartos?
Yep.
Mr. Everin?
Aye. All right, thank you, everyone. Have a good night.